And here we go. Ever since I announced that I would expand on Bops from the Basement to include entries that were not originally in my lineup of scripted videos and do unscripteds on them, this is the episode that I have been most excited to record. This is such a special moment for me because I'm going to be telling you guys all about the one artist who informed my tween and teen years. No one else, not even any other celebrity, had this much of a chokehold on me as she did. And I know for a fact that I was just a guppy in a sea of fish that were inspired by Avril Lavigne. So in the early 2000s, I definitely knew about a couple of her songs, but it wasn't until grade 6 that I actually learned who she was. And the way it happened was through a class project, where we had to pick a song to analyze, get the lyrics printed on transparency film, display the film on a projector screen for the entire class to see, and have our song of choice playing in the background. For that assignment, I actually chose Come Clean from Hilary Duff's Metamorphosis, which I've actually discussed on this channel. Of everyone else's presentations, the two that stuck out to me the most were the girls who analyzed Complicated and My Happy Ending by Avril Lavigne, respectively, of course. And this was great for me because I could finally put a name to those songs that I've heard before. Naturally, I became intrigued to hear even more of her songs and quickly became hooked. So for my subsequent birthday, one of my friends gave me Kelly Clarkson's Breakaway, which I was also interested in. And another one gave me Under My Skin. Later on, I would get Let Go as a gift, and I bought The Best Damn Thing on release day. While I've never been to a single concert of hers and never really thought to go to one or to meet her at any sort of event, I was honestly perfectly fine with admiring her from afar. I can nevertheless definitely say that I was a semi-proper fan. I had these 3 albums on a loop. I saved any magazine that featured her and made collages and scrapbooks out of her photo shoots and photo ops. I adopted some of her fashion choices. Skirt over jeans, anyone? I did the dark nails, I got the glovelets, and of course I would straighten my hair. Truthfully though, her style was so popular during that time that if I were to get out my yearbooks from 2007 and 2008, I'd be able to point out all of the girls in my grade who were dressing like her, who were doing their makeup like her, who were doing their hair like her. Some of them were even dyeing their hair as well. Like, these girls were way more hardcore than I was, and that's saying something. While I've always thought that she was totally gorgeous and loved her outfits, I was primarily about the music, which, let's get to it. Don't you love that segue? Now, as someone who listened to Under My Skin first, I can confidently say that getting into Let Go second was not hard at all. In the 90s, grunge and hip-hop were the big genres. But what makes Let Go's response to that in the early 2000s so interesting is the fact that you could hear so many influences unexpectedly intermingling. Whether it's Avril's voice, the lyrics, or the music production, you could easily pinpoint System of a Down, The Cranberries, Faith Hill, Alanis Morissette, Natalie Imbruglia, Chantal Kreviazuk, and many others, which resulted in this unique mishmash of pop-punk, alternative rock, pop rock, post-grunge, rock, and nu metal. And it even had a bit of an updated folksy vibe to it. I really appreciated that Avril wasn't just this edgy girl that was trying to shake things up. She was very vulnerable and honest in the stories that she was telling. And she conveyed them in a way that was relatable to many of us who were just entering our teen years. It didn't feel like she was making note of trends from her school or something like that, but rather was drawing from her own experiences. This was absolutely evident in the topics that she covered. It wasn't all just about boyfriends and crushes, but also life in general, and friends and family members. Those would certainly be common themes throughout this trilogy of albums. Then we get to Under My Skin, and this is where Avril's voice became notably less soft. We're getting into the confusion, angst, and difficulty of our teen years, perfectly encompassed in this album. Under My Skin feels like a very natural progression from Let Go, in the sense that only a few tweaks were made to get to a darker and more emotional place. As we all know, and I've talked about this on the channel before, this was the time when everyone was in their emo phase. Bands like Billy Talent, Linkin Park, Evanescence, and Our Lady Peace were prominent. And included in the personnel in the making of this album were indeed members of some of those bands I just listed. So you can definitely hear remnants of theirs and others here. You might be asking me, what do I think of her giving Breakaway to Kelly Clarkson? I do think she sang it beautifully, and given the few uplifting songs already on her album, it would have fit just fine. But I really do think that it was the perfect album starter for Kelly, and she totally did the song justice. Despite Avril tapping more into the theatrics and a more vintage vibe, it still nevertheless felt accessible to a mainstream audience. Yes, her sound got harder and had more of a bite to it, but it wasn't to the point where it became so juvenile or melodramatic that it wouldn't, in retrospect, have aged as well as some of her contemporaries. Because you listen to some of the songs that you loved from other bands of that time and think, wow, I don't remember this being so cringe. And frankly, I think it's because they had this kind of pretentious air that Avril never did. She always stood out to me as being more three-dimensional in the sense that, yeah, she had all these struggles and opinions, but at the same time, yeah, she wants to have fun. Who says that you have to stay in one lane when it comes to punk music? She always wanted to bring all these different sides of herself into it, and that's why she became the punk princess we know her as today. I believe that this idea is most emphasized in her third album, The Best Damn Thing. Once again, it is very reminiscent of both of her previous albums, except now she's a lot spicier. I can best describe it as a mix of the lyrical content of her first album and the heavy, aggressive music of her second. There's also a touch of new wave here, and she definitely doubles down on the sassiness of that era. You can hear I'm the Kinda by Peaches, Mickey by Tony Basile, among others. And it totally lets the bubblegum pop. You're probably wondering which of these albums is my favorite. I admittedly don't listen to them as often as I used to. I only just listen to them back to back for this retrospective. But while I do select some songs to play from time to time, Under My Skin is the album that I find I return to the most as a whole. Generally speaking, it's really funny to me how Avril was consistently criticized for her lyrics back in the day, and yet you hear some of the songs now that are being produced, and it's like, are you sure hers were the worst? I, for one, am extremely grateful that I got to grow up in an era where we actually had media specifically for preteen and younger teen girls. You know, stuff that actually resonated with us. Obviously, I'm always happy when guys are able to enjoy this stuff too. I'm just saying we were not alienated as a demographic. That being said, as I was exiting high school, I did hear the song What the Hell, and I thought it was really cute, but by then I was already exploring other types of music and artists, so I wasn't really following her career anymore. I did hear Head Above Water on the radio a couple years ago, and considering the type of music we've been getting in these last few years, it was definitely a refreshing change of pace. I did hear that longtime fans have been very happy with her output in recent years, so I am open to listening to the rest of her albums. And that about does it for this episode. Phew! It has been a while since I've talked that much, but it was definitely worth it, right? Next time, I'll be looking at a rap album, which I haven't done in a long time, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye now.